I think I'm going to go really small 3-betting down the bottom right, and I'm really doing that sort of just to take initiative, because if we just call, the fish is always going to see bet. It's pretty borderline because he's not folding too many 3-bets, so that's the kind of tricky part, is that we're going to be seeing a flop a lot, but we just have the best hand so often against the button. You know, he's raising just raising tons, and says he's stealing 60%, so I know we don't have many hands on him, but let's, you know, that's just how we're going to get chips, is by, you know, getting in pots with a hand ahead of a fish's range. Out of position, he's a bit sticky, so it's definitely marginal because our hand doesn't have a lot of post-flop playability. Obviously we flopped well. A lot of the time we won't flop that well, so a lot of the time, you know, you only flop a pair around 30%. And so the other 70% of the time you're just sort of left high and dry, out of position against the fish. And that's where the marginality from that hand comes, is just sort of potentially getting yourself in a sort of a tricky spot. But it's an MTT, you know. You've heard MTTs described perhaps once before as marathons, and really couldn't disagree more. MTTs are crazy sprints, a crazy race to the finish. You have maybe 400 hands, you know, average MTT. How many hands do you get? 400, 500, 600? Depends if it's turbo or deep stacks. And you have to get all the chips, every single player. I mean, there's 1,000 players in some of these tournaments. Well, we got to get by the end like 1 million in chips, and we start with 3,000. Whew. This is a crazy, crazy sprint. It's a crazy, crazy race to the finish. And we're going to try and get chips any way we can. And sometimes, you know, it won't be pretty. But it's just how it goes. Wow. It's bottom left. What do we do here, guys? Checked. I think I'm going to check. And this is actually, I saw this sort of situation a lot in the WSOP. And I remember Antonio Svendiari always saying, well, I think you've got a bet here, you got 2 pair, you know, you should have the best hand most of the time. And that's true. That's true. But what is he going to call with? You know, and I think in the World Series, 2014 World Series I'm talking about now, you see this situation a lot where Antonio's sort of saying, oh, you get a bet, you have the best hand. But he never really thinks, when the guys check, you know, in a few different spots, they're more thinking about what will actually call, because that's a pretty important thing to betting, right? Yeah, I think we have the best hand, but what is going to call us there? You know, I mean, if he has any pair under the 10, he's not calling. And he could still have the flush and be tricky. He could still have a 5 and be tricky. He could still have some tricky hand. And so there's really, on that board, the only hands that might call us is if he happens to have 10 jack, king 10 or ace 10. That's probably all. And so when you compare that to the times that he actually has a flush or some trap, or the times he just gets funky on the river and check raises us and we can never ever call and we just get blown off our hand, it's pretty close. It's quite close. And so you got to be careful just thinking, well, we should have the best hand, I'm going to bet. Because it's always important to think, I think we have the best hand, but what is actually going to call if we do bet? What can we get value from? That's obviously an important part to betting. And I think, just trying to think here if we want to bet. How do we want to do this? I think I'm just going to bet small here, and just set it up for 3 barrels. I mean, I'm not folding, but I'm just thinking if we can get, well, it's just it's just the worst card. I think I'm going to bet again, and the reason why I'm going to do that is we may sometimes actually fold out ace high or like pocket fours, but I don't think we're going to fold out pocket fours. I was going to barrel 3 streets, but this is just the worst card ever. So I think I'm going to bet and now check and just hate life because I don't think he's folding. I think if he's going to fold, it would have been turn. Normally, if you know the river doesn't come, the turn doesn't come such a ridiculous card, I'll bet turn and then shove river. I mean, the turn, say the turn comes a 9 and then the river comes like, well, an ace, or say that the turn's a 7 and then the river's a jack. It's pretty hard for him to get to the river with ace high or like pocket sixes, right? And that's what he's going to have most of the time. Occasionally, yes, he'll have a 10. But we even had equity against that hand if we had hit a flush. So we could still have the best hand if he's got like jack 9 of hearts. But I think it's pretty close, actually. It's pretty close. He could have 7, 8 of hearts, yeah. But I don't think we can call now. But I don't quite want to bet river, but it's kind of, it leaves me kind of thinking like, what the hell does he have that does this? I must admit. I think I'm going to bet, how are we going to bet here? No, I don't have to bet big. Pretty small. And he does check raise. What a guy. What a guy. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close there because we're in position and it's only a min. We could turn our hand into a bluff on later streets. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting check raise, to be honest. He's repping pretty thin. But I just don't really want to, I mean, I think if we just call, he's going to bet turn a lot, and we just can't call unless we hit an 8 or a queen, so we don't really have any cards working for us other than 5 outs. You know, I think he's always just going to bet turn, and I don't want to get into a situation where we're calling down on that particular board against an opponent we know nothing about. I think it's pretty dicey, to say the least. I think we can find better spots. So the tables are starting to fill up around 2 guys. I said we'd probably be on about 20 tables or 18 or 20 tables in a couple hours, and it's starting to fill up. Probably actually should have played some satellites for this. They would have been really good value. Doesn't really look like there's too many good ones for the pot limit over F-tops. 6. It's actually not a bad tournament. I mean, there's not too many pros online today, it seems, and that tournament's only going to have a couple hundred players. So, if ever there was a time to win an F-tops, it's in a tournament like that, I think. Wow, so we're very deep bottom left, and we've just been 4-bet, cold 4-bet. But it's just a bit smelly, I think. And I think I'm just going to call though, but I think you could argue for 5 betting. The problem with 5 betting is, you know, if we make it like 800 and he stuffs, like, I mean, it feels pretty gross, but we probably have to fold. But I think I would call. Just because I think he might have spazzed out. Just because this raise, I think, is quite suspicious. 12, 18, 24. I guess I'm just going to min top middle. Any thinking player knows we have aces, but there's a Russian sitting there and a couple other guys. I mean, interesting here. We can actually maybe just check, see what he bets here. Just trap top middle, I guess. I guess I'm going to bet. I don't know if he's going to bluff river. It's only half pot. If he's got a pair, he'll probably call. And so... yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to fold. I'm pretty sure he has like king 9 suited though. Well... jack queen? Yeah, I mean, I do think he's 4-bet bluffing a lot there pre-flop. And... I mean, his stats are pretty aggressive. We don't have tons of hands on him, and he doesn't have much of a squeezing stat so far, but I mean, it just didn't look right to me, you know. I mean, we 3-bet against a late position stealer, and he then 4-bets. It's just a classic spot for it. And I found it pretty smelly, to be honest. And I think 4-betting pre and calling off, even though we're deep, there's actually sometimes, you know, I don't mind it. Sometimes it's a little bit of variance in there, obviously, but if that's what your gut tells you, that he's just light, or you know might be spazzing out, then you know there's times I've you know 5-bet there, and then the guy's shoved and I call when he's got like 8s, or he's got like ace 10 suited, or you know that sort of thing. We just flopped. Look at this. I mean, not a bad flop. We're probably ahead at this stage. It's a straight flush on the flop, and I just don't think we can fold it. I think we have to continue. I think I will raise 1632.48 because it's just going to be so hard to get the money in if we don't, you know. And I mean, you can have the ace of diamonds. It's out there somewhere, you know. It's kind of a bad card because it probably makes it a little bit more scary for him. Bottom right, that was a bit ugly, bottom right, but hey. I will just bet an amount where if he's got like a big diamond or something like that, he might continue, I guess. Hopefully he's got a set, had a set, and now it would be a house. He could sometimes be trapping, I guess, and he might think that we actually have the ace of diamonds if he doesn't have it. So I will go ahead and shove. I think that's the best bet to be making there. But he could have had the draw himself. I think it's going to be pretty hard to get called at the river in any case. Bottom right I am going to bet just to try and fold out hands like 7s and stuff like that. Just to protect our, well, not protect our equity, but just to get him to make mistakes, really. And I think I'm going to check turn, and probably going to fire small river, just enough to get called by a queen, because he might think we're betting because we think he might have missed a flush draw and we have to bet to win. But he's probably got king 10, so way off, queen 6. Yeah, so I mean it's pretty close to him on the river. I think he can actually probably, yeah, I mean I think he can actually probably fold, to be honest. But I mean we never have worse. That value bets obviously, but you just got to ask himself: are we ever like betting the same hand, trying to fold him off the same hand? A little bit risky. Wow, what a 6-6 spot that is. Oh, I did actually click all in, but yeah, it's a gross spot. I would have taken it, but this guy. The thing is that it's normally against a reg. Excuse me, against a reg, it's an easy call. Well, not easy. It's never easy with a hand like ace rag, but I think we would have to call. But the problem is that this is a silver star player who hasn't been overly loose. So he's probably not really jamming like 8-10 suited and stuff like that, you know. They're probably not really aware of hands that they should be jamming. They probably don't really understand short stack play. And so that actually means that, you know, We're not really doing that well. We're not doing that well against their range. I think I will take this one. From a PN point of view, it's very, very close. It's kind of a break-even jam. But at the same time, I mean, we just don't have much time. You know, I mean, we only had M4. We only had 3 players to beat. And it is a knockout, and we had them all covered. You know, so if they call, you know, we get a bonus as well, which I think makes up for the fact that it was kind of a break-even jam. And it's the same sort of logic again here, although this is actually a little bit of a clearer jam because the hand is just a bit prettier. And we're going to hit a backdoor flush. We're going to hit a queen. Nope. And that's the end of that chapter. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty easy jam from a hand strength point of view. But yeah, I mean, it's just what it is. We had M4 or 5 and late position, and Queen 9 has a power number of 38, and we just don't have a lot of time, and we're not going to raise fold. 27. Just got to be careful I don't get too automated here. I just noticed I was clicking fold on the top left before I even saw the action, and I had ace 8. What's that all about? Yeah, got to be careful doing that. It's very easy when more tables start popping up, just start being robotic and not breaking down the hands and not thinking about players' ranges properly. So, you know, bottom right here, these players haven't been 3-betting, and this guy is pretty tight normally, but he did defend with Queen 6 suited. So it's kind of weird because the stats that I have on him, 1K hands, says that he only defends with 8% of hands. And Queen 6 suited it was. I mean, it's hard to believe that there's any way you can fit that into the top 8% of hands. So, yeah, I mean, my guess is 27. I think I'll fold. My guess is that he's actually changed his game. And I used to play against that guy a lot, but not so much lately. And my guess is that he's actually kind of maybe started playing a few live tournaments, or who knows, maybe he's been playing some sit and goes or cash, or maybe he just doesn't play tourneys as much because he got a nice job at the bank. But I think he's a very good player, and I think that I think he might have changed his game a bit, loosened it up, which is certainly something that a player like that used to defend very tightly, exploitably so. And that's probably one of the biggest changes that you will find, is that a lot of players that used to play quite nitty but have a lot of success in tournaments, you know, Sit and Go Wizard, Where's Donny, what's his name? RDSRN or something like that. And who else like that? There's tons of guys like that. Pipe Dream. These guys have all had like a lot of success in tournaments, but are just super tight players. Lippo Fund used to be like that. He's a very tight online reg, but these guys, a lot of them now, especially Lippo, he's quite loose now. So I think they've made that adjustment where they've start defending a lot looser because they were quite exploitable and they're too easy to steal from. And so they've developed a lot more toughness, which is really important. And they 3-bet more and they defend more. And they just make themselves less of a target for players, you know, like us that are looking to attack. But bottom right, I don't think we're going to be able to attack because we're probably going to have to get the stack in. I do think we have the best hand, though, some of the time. But I just don't quite think it's time, you know, to get the whole stack in at that stack depth, M27. But I think this guy is just out of line. He 3-bet us before. He's 3-betting again. His stats say he's super loose. It's not hard to yeah, I mean, it's not hard to imagine he's being a bit of a loose monkey. And just going back to what I was saying, yeah, I think I'm probably going to raise it up here. it puts this guy in a pretty gross spot. Because you know, if he four bets, it's going to be more than a quarter of his stack, and I mean, pretty anti. Just don't think he really wants to be doing that. Just four bet bluffing like almost a third of his stack on a table when there's huge fish. I think he's just more likely to opt for preserving his stack and getting a good spot, a more clearer spot soon. Even though he does potentially suspect that we are getting out of line on the button there. And I'm just going to raise here, get it in with the ace-queen. It's just one of those things where... well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's really close, let's be honest. We can flat, I guess. I guess we can flat, you know. Yeah, I just got to kind of... this guy's not that loose early. And just in general, he's not that loose, so I don't love it. I mean, he can have ace-king, which crushes us some of the time, but he might get it in with like eights up, and he might fold some of the time like he did. So I think it's profitable, but it's certainly not a fist pump, you know. I'm not pumped about the situation. So trying to get aggressive here. And I'd say that we've been a little bit too tight so far. I blame it on you guys. Sometimes that happens when I'm talking away here. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 12, 18. 3-bet buy position. Small blind 7% 3-betting. 3-bet versus the button is 12 and the cutoff is 11. So he does like to attack at a reasonable frequency against those players. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is pretty close. Problem is, I mean, I just don't think this guy does a lot of folding, you know? And we only have ace-8. I think he has a very wide value betting range there. Value raising range. Like, he probably even raises with ace-9 suited there and calls off. Maybe even off. The problem with that guy, I mean, just doesn't... in my history with him, he doesn't fold a lot. So, you can have all the hands that beat us. Maybe king-queen, he does raise calls off. Maybe if pocket fives, he raise calls off, which we're flipping with. Yeah, I mean, it's really close. I definitely wouldn't fault someone for jamming, and I actually probably would normally jam, but I just had kind of a bad feeling there. So, bottom middle, kind of standard, well, not standard 3-bet pre, but I went for it, and just standard, I think, to check on the flop. And I think checking turn is okay as well, because he's probably got king-queen, so I want to make sure he gets there with a straight. I think I will bet now. It's pretty close though. I mean, Jack Queen is probably going to call. Jack 9, if he's got Jack 9 suited or something, he might call. But I don't think much worse is going to call. He shouldn't really have much worse. He doesn't even open that loose in the first place. So he's probably got 7s. Yeah, we managed to hold on with the ace-king. He didn't stab, which was good. Yeah, I mean, the check flop, I think, is kind of standard because it's just hard to get value from anything. You know what I mean? I mean, if he's got 7s, it's just folding. But if we check, you know, he might get curious on the turn. It comes a 6, we check again. Rivers a 5, we bet small. I think we might better get value. At the same time, you know, on that board, there's not that much we need to protect from. I mean, sure, he can have some gut shots and he might have 4 outs, you know, only 8%. He's probably either got 2 outs or 4 outs. So, I mean, he's only got like a 4 or 8% chance of getting us on the turn. I don't know, it's close. I mean, the thing is, too, he can still have ace-jack and that sort of stuff. So the turn check just sort of, It just controls and just allows us potentially to get value on later streets. If he does have a jack, I mean, in that situation, and if he does have king jack or jack queen, I mean, that's on the river. Then now we can get value, you know, whereas he would have probably have folded flop to that. Maybe, I mean, he had a gut shot, but probably would have. So, yeah, I mean, I just tried to get value and. Chip flow. Chip flow has just recognized me and says, "Hey, Kel," which is great because I want to find out what he had when he overpotted river before. Chip flow. Chip flow. Who is Chip flow? I should know. It's like, I know this name, Chip flow. Man, I spoke to this guy recently. So just going to bet turn now, pretty standard. Checked flop, and for the gutser and overs, I think we're okay to bet now. And he's called and we've hit the king, so definitely going to check now. Looks like he's actually got the ace. Ace 5, yeah. So, I mean, we probably should have bet flop, I guess, once he checks and caps his range like that. But we can do a bet on the turn like we did. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Probably should have just bet, I think, flop once he caps his range and checks. It's probably bad by us. He sweet talked me. He sweet talked me into checking. No, he didn't. He didn't really bet. But yeah, we had the 2 overs and the 4 gut shot out, so I think definitely we can go ahead and put pressure on him. Anytime a player is planning to check call out of position, it's usually a good time to put pressure on them because check calling, you know, out of position is just the bane of all evil. It really is just bad play. You never want to just be check calling out of position with marginal hands. Sit all the time. And I'm going to ask him here, what did he have on the... I'm going to ask him, please tell us I'm making a video. So, I mean, top right is pretty close. I think I'm just going to get to river, and then that's a pretty bad card. And just try and hope at showdown we're okay, but as it was, he had the 7, so... you can see bet flop, you can check. I think that both are fine. A lot of the time he's going to have small pairs, though, when he limp calls, which isn't good, but then he's going to have high cards a lot, too. He's not limping tons. If he was limping a lot more, I would probably be more inclined just to bet flop. But he's limping a modest amount. So I don't mind checking and probably calling a turn bet on on all the turns. We also do keeping cards, you know, the type of hand he has. If he didn't have a pair, if he had like another, if he had an ace and the turn was an ace, I mean, we can get 2 solid streets of value, sort of thing. I think I'm going to bet here. It's kind of a weird one again. I'm kind of merging my range here again. I'm trying to kind of... I was trying to fold out a big pair here. I was trying to fold out like jacks. But having said that, in a $5 tournament, it's probably too ambitious. I don't think a player is going to fold jacks. If it was a bigger buy-in, I think I could get someone to fold, because the 8's a really bad card for them. Because I can have 7, 9, or pocket 8s. I can obviously have the flush, which is what I'm representing. At the same time, you could just have like ace-jack with a spade, which probably calls, so we can kind of get value turn. And he did have kings, so... I think the check is good. But I do think that if we overpot river, a good player there is going to have a hard time calling with kings. But it's probably a little bit too high up in their range, so they probably do call, I guess. But if we pot river, it's pretty hard because, I mean, they don't really beat much. And in all honesty, there's not really many hands that we would actually check call turn into a bluff in that spot. But I think sevens with a spade is just one of the few hands that we would. If we happen to check call flop with ace 10 and turned a nut flush draw as well, that's some hands that I might bluff with as well. So I do have some bluffs in that spot, so I'm not... I guess I'm not completely balanced because I do have some bluffs, a decent frequency of bluffs, and my value hands are, not that many. I mean, we can certainly have flop trips and full houses because, we're in the blind and we're going to call with all those sorts of combinations against that player raising from late. But we do also have a lot of bluffs, and I think that a player with kings is going to have a hard time folding on that sort of board, even if we bet turn, bet river. Even though we would take that line, of course, with all our flushes as well, because we want to get value from high pairs. So, I guess it's close of if we're balanced or not because of all the flushes, trips, full houses, and different things that we might play that way. But hands like sevens, turn nut flush, and that sort of thing. Maybe if we had king queen and made sort of a loosish flop call since he's only stealing and we have the two overs and can bluff on later streets, I might sometimes float out of position. And then bet turn if we have the overs with a big flush draw, I might also bluff. So I think at the end of to summarize that, I mean, I think we'd have enough bluffs that players probably should be calling down with hands like he has, but at the same time, I don't think solid sort of tighter players that don't get to showdown a lot do. I think they actually do give you credit and go, nah, you must have a flush. So you got to pick your targets is really the moral of that story. Because if you're trying to do it in a $5.50 tournament, you're just going to get snapped off by all high pairs. And if you're trying to do it in a $109 rebuy, $100 rebuy tournament, good players still might think that you have a few too many bluff combinations to warrant folding. So you got to sort of get a guy that's going to sort of just miscalculate your bluffing frequency and just give you credit for a value range. And we could very easily have had a value range taking that line, but yeah, we do, as was apparent, have a few bluffs in there as well. So I think that's probably an interesting hand to finish off on that. And on that note, it's break time. So that is the end of that chapter, guys. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Acesup for PokerNerve.com.